Nope.
Hey, are we all right now, Jennifer?
We're good.
Okay, call the meeting back to order. Morning.
Good morning.
You have the floor.
Right now.
Yes.
That was fast, like jump right into it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say and apologize for I didn't get a whole lot of sleep this last week. So I am gonna do a lot of reading off of my notes because my brain will not focus otherwise. So sorry about that. And there's only Peter and I do today. So we were gonna have Diane, but she sends her regret. She wasn't feeling well this morning. So Peter and I would like to thank you, members of council, for having us here today and the opportunity to speak with you and present about trails. We're here to update you about our New Ross Trail Society and would like to review with you our history and bring you up to date on some of our accomplishments and successes so far. Slide. Is everyone able to see those? Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Good. Although the New Ross Trail Society officially filed documents to become incorporated in June 2018, the precursor of our work as a group began several years prior to that in 2015. A group of dedicated volunteers who named themselves the Action Committee of the Development Society were tasked to turn items identified by the Strategic Development Plan into tangible accomplishments. At the time, the desire for a trail system in New Ross was clearly outlined in the Strategic Development Plan for New Ross and area, and building and improving existing trails was listed specifically within those goals outlined in the plan. And in section 3.5, it states New Ross residents want more trails for recreation and general travel to prompt healthy living choices. So we did a community survey a few years later in 2017 that verified this desire and need for a trail system in New Ross. The survey showed that respondents desired locations for a wide range of activities, including but not limited to walking, hiking, running, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and horseback riding. Now, only these local factors and identified need, but even more so within our municipality, provincially, and nationally, we have been increasingly aware that physical inactivity and unhealthy eating, especially among our youth, is a trend. We know that inactive children.
In the kitchen.
We'll keep that to ourselves. We know that inactive children are more likely to become inactive adults. Studies also show that as children get older, their activity levels decline. So studies in Nova Scotia specifically show in grade 3, about 80% of the boys and girls meet the physical activity standards. It's 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Doesn't seem like a lot. But by the time they reach grade 11, this decreases to 5% of boys and 1% of girls. And according to the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines, adults aged 18 to 64 should get 2.5 hours a week. Doesn't sound like a whole lot. Walking, jogging, swimming, cycling. 82% of Canadian adults do not meet this current guideline. Nova Scotia also falls short. So if we look specifically at our district health authority, according to the Lunenburg County Vital Statistics, nearly 1 in 3 aged 18 and over were obese, which is above the provincial and national average, with only 46.9% of those 12 and older reporting being physically active in their leisure time. And it wasn't leisure time, it was an hour a day. According to the Shift Action Plan, by 2030, 1 in 4 Nova Scotians over 65 state that their regular physical activity is important for ages, with walking listed as one of the most effective ways adults of any age can maintain mobility and improve their mental and physical health. The benefits of physical activity. We all know that it's well unknown and understood. We know that being physically active improves our overall health and well-being. It helps us cope better with everyday stressors. It supports the shared goal of lifelong and fulfilling lives. In our busy world, however, many of us are challenged with finding that time or resources to incorporate this regular activity into our day. We're not alone. Levels of inactivity and sedentary behaviors are issues facing the entire country and province. So according to the 2019 Western Zone Community Health Plan, they found people have challenges with availability and access to healthy living, recreation, and wellness programs in their own community. They recommend that they work with partners to increase availability of these community-based healthy living, recreation, and wellness opportunities, and to increase the policy at the municipal level that works to eliminate barriers to participation. The Physical Activity Community Survey in 2017 stated that the top activity on participants list, guess what? Walking, yay! With the most common challenging being infrastructure. There were poor conditions for walking and biking in laneways and roadways, with 2 out of 3 wanting to walk or bike more. It could be achieved with better road and off-road conditions, with the majority of respondents stating that they needed outdoor spaces within a reasonable distance to be active, and 92% wanted trail opportunities. We also know financially the cost of being inactive. According to the Canadian Fitness and Lifestyle Research Institute, 62% of Nova Scotians are currently too inactive to reap the health benefits of regular physical activity. When we take all the direct and indirect costs of healthcare, the total economic burden of physical inactivity in Nova Scotia is estimated at $354 million annually. The Nova Scotia government has stated, we want to help Nova Scotians be more active. We're going to do this by improving and increasing their opportunities for them to be active in their communities, their workplaces, and their schools. And they want to aim to improve social supports, places, and spaces for them to do that. This is echoed by our municipality and your active living stance. So it's stated in your active transportation policy. Municipality of the District of Chester believes the strength and health of our communities is fundamentally linked to how people move with boat. That when we build our communities so that all modes of active transportation are attractive and viable, and they become the easy and preferred choice to get to work, school, and play. The municipality will champion active transportation in our communities, and we will promote the social, economic, environmental, and health benefits of that. We will create and satisfy demand by building these facilities and infrastructure that people will want to use, and will create new opportunities to enhance and build infrastructure and host visitors. Parents and children of school communities are particularly vital, such as New Ross, in rebuilding a culture that embraces active transportation, with the goal, as you state, of active transportation to improve citizens' accessibility and mobility regardless of age, ability, or socioeconomic status. The New Trail Society has identified a need within the municipality for local trails that's accessible to the rural residents. As prior to these trails that we have built in New Ross, residents would have to travel 25 to 35 minutes to access the closest trail. And we have done this with a vision that supported the municipally, provincially, and nationally, and stated specifically in our shared strategy for trails in Nova Scotia. Trails are essential to achieving the vision and goals of Let's Get Moving. They provide key connections and routes for active transportation. They support the provincial and national recreational goals by providing venues for active living. And many municipal planning strategies, such as we just stated, and one I'll state in a second, have trails as the key consideration in their vision and their goal. And it's stated in the Chester Municipal Plan for Open Spaces 2020, page 7, the MRDC open spaces will promote physical and mental health through the development of trail and facilities that create exceptional visitor experience and serve to activate individuals, families, and communities to pursue active outdoor lifestyles. With all that in mind, this springboarded the vision of the New Ross Trail Society to create a spectrum of trails that appeals to a wide array of user types for the health and wellness of all users. Our trails are specifically being built to promote fitness, social interaction, and to create safe travel routes for all users. We achieve this through thorough planning and input from our own and neighboring communities. For example, we held a field trip to a nearby trail network to hear their experience and share valuable information. We hosted a landowner meeting to gather their valued input on what trails look like and could mean in our area. We held a bike ride around the Ross Farm and hosted a 5K run walk on Faulkner Trail and a trail hike, all promoting healthy living and obtaining valuable input from our local youth and the event participants. With this knowledge, we were able to build on and create 3 trail systems: Ruby's, Popner, and Larders Lane. The first is Ruby's Trail. This trail is located on the Murphy property on Porcupine Hill. In 2017, the Murphy family lost 8-month-old baby Ruby. New Ross responded with an incredible show of support and compassion, and in recognition of this, the Murphy family wanted to say thank you. And they chose to open their tree lot to the public for the enjoyment of all. They have maintained the lot as a working Christmas tree farm, but have been excited to expand the potential of the property to include recreation trails. Through sound development and management, we feel we have several excellent trail experiences that we have created, and integral to this plan is the recognition of Ruby. There is one location in particular on Porcupine Hill that has expansive views of the village below and the rolling hills beyond. And from this location, we can see Popner Hill, Lake Lawson, and the Bow River Valley, and the school in one sweeping view. This location is labeled Ruby Spot, and we have marked this spot as a place of peace and quiet contemplation and a dedication to all the wonderful children of New Ross. The second is Popner Hill Trail, otherwise known as the Old Annapolis Trail. This trail was first attempted to connect Halifax and Annapolis Royal. Work began on this in 1784, but was never completed. This trail is a combination of woodland trail and tree lot road, and is 2.5 kilometers up to the ridge with downhill on the back. And at the ridge, you can see a wonderful view of the village of New Ross, Porcupine Hill, and distant views of the ocean. It's great for hiking, biking, and horseback. And lastly is Larders Lane. This is built to connect Lions Park Trail, the school, and Ruby's Trail. And it was named in recognition of Pat and Nita Larder, they're pictured on the top right, who in 1946 purchased the land the trail was built on. They lived, played, and worked on the land with their 10 children and a brother Phil, his wife Bea, and family next door. It was enjoyed for many years by the family and neighborhood children who played many a day and night hunting for porcupine and building forts, but was also worked on for shearing, cutting, and hauling Christmas trees. Also on this land where the gazebo is at the cross today was a landmark hotel built in 1844 for those passing through. It eventually housed the Larders store, but unfortunately succumbed to the Great Fire of 1967, making way for Larder Tasty Light, now Vittles. The majority of the land was passed on to a few of Pat's sons and a daughter, who along with their neighboring landowners welcome all to enjoy the trail and hope it will spark imagination and great memories of years gone by. Along with these 3 trail systems, our group in the Ross Farm Museum have also been sharing in the maintenance and upkeep of Lions Park Trail. This was a trail started by members of the Regional Development Society and begins across from the school, is ideally located on Route 12 and houses a picnic area, a portable washroom, and a walking trail that connects with the Ross Farm Museum. While strolling through the woods, this trail showcases our beautiful evergreens and ends with a wonderful meadow view. When these trail projects saw their completion, our group had 2 very successful mobility days at Ruby's Trails for those individuals unable to walk the trail. From the Murphy's property, there was a motorized ferry which transported participants to and from the overlook of the village of New Ross. And these events had over 100 participants each, with music, food, and drinks, people of all ages and abilities, and was enjoyed immensely by all who came. We were also able to receive grants to do some further trail maintenance and purchase trail tools and equipment, which allowed us to host 3 volunteer work days, adding great upgrades to Ruby's and Popner trails with new footpaths, posts, and signs and benches. We have held a ferry walk, which introduced the new Larders Lane Trail and invited young and old alike to remember the beauty and fascination of what a walk in the woods can magically create. We have also made ourselves known and popular on our Facebook page and inviting all to enjoy our performing trail system in New Ross, as well as the amazingly meaningful Facebook page of Ruby's Traveling Rocks. Ruby's grandmother has painted rocks to look like ladybugs in memory of her and created this page to share in their journey. We have all seen Ruby's rocks travel all over the world, spreading love wherever she goes. The Trails Society has been featured in newspaper articles and interviewed by the Physical Activity Practitioners Exchange Meeting, a group of municipal and provincial recreation coordinators tasked with promoting physical activity, where they come together to share and discuss their work. And they wanted us to come talk about our accomplishments as it related to trails and share province-wide our trail building experience as a prime example or model, if you may, of how our trail network can work in rural Nova Scotia and be successful with private landowners. Also growing out of these trails has been many opportunities for new programs and support. This include from our local daycare, our after-school program in school. The director of the New Ross Family Resource Center submitted a letter that I'll highlight some activities she was able to create. Including but not limited to the walking club, story time on the trails, nature calls, which was included a scavenger hunt and picnic, healthy picnics, youth and family hikes, a collection of natural items for art, all getting youth out and engaged in nature. And also housed in the heart of the trail system is the daycare. In their letter of support, they highlight the fact outdoor exploration is mandatory for a child care center, with trails listed as a favorite among the children, providing an expanded learning environment while enjoying safe passage. These trails have also created many special and extensive partnerships, which include the Legion, Credit Union, Family Resource Center, Consolidated School, Ross Farm Museum, as well as local landowners. Additionally, the trail work in New Ross has quickly become a source of community pride and identity. We did this with the scarcity of public land. We have been fortunate that several private landowners have generously offered or agreed to open their lands for public use. They recognize the wisdom of building on existing assets, and they subscribe to a spirit of cooperation and the need to build a community that is attractive to residents in the future. Each of these landowners signed and entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Trail Society to permit the use of their property for public. The MOU is a non-binding 90-day escape clause, yet it is the standard MOU used by members of the Nova Scotia Trails Federation, for which we are members of. The MOU is an attractive partnership tool because it extends liability insurance protection to the private landowner and allows them to retain control over the permitted uses and the development plan on their property. These landowners have not only given freely a portion of their land, but have also contributed and donated countless hours of their own personal time, as well as covered costs for materials and other items that have far exceeded their stated obligations in their MOU. And these efforts have in many cases contributed to the popularity and notoriety of the trails in New Ross. Finally, I'm going to stop. Okay, in conclusion, as a society, we have worked hard to create this burgeoning trail system in New Ross. We have done it collaboratively with input from all levels of government, from neighboring and local communities, from local strategic planning, all the while following the vision of our community and the residents that reside there. We hope that you celebrate in our successes and realize the importance of investing in trails, in their future and in their growth, in their upkeep, and recognizing that trails are an important part of our livelihood, an important part and investment in our youth and citizens, our community, and our health. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
You did an excellent job.
With no sense.
Sat down for a while to write that all.
Sorry, I knew I took over my time. Every time I timed it, I was over, but I couldn't exclude anything. It was all very important.
Not over. Not over at all.
And I know we are over a time, but
Yeah.
we can pass that on to someone else. And
Seems to be the day, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can start shutting people off right now. I don't think we would.
Okay.
So certainly, I don't know what anyone can say, right? I don't know, except wow. So I'm just simply gonna say it again, amazing work of the Trail Society, private landowners and community.
Thank you.
I've said it here and just saying it again. But you mentioned this in your comments, so I'm glad around the piece around not just the private landowners and the willingness to step up, but what they are doing outside of what we even envisioned around, labor, time, sweat equity, not within our trail society, but there's private landowners and monies out of their own pockets, if you will, because they believe in it. In addition to the bit of money that, that is on record that and I'm gonna say we because I'm a member of the Trail Society, but the Trail Society was able to leverage provincially and federally. And, certainly I know with the assistance of conversations with Gord, we've been able to track a bit of that because it's so much more beyond, the 35 or whatever we were able to give here under major project, under 20, I think, from the province and so on, just to see that spearheaded. And then there have been some grants throughout the years as well, including today, to let you know officially, motion through the rec committee. There was one grant on there for the Trail Society, and that's approved officially today. So you'll get that from probably maybe Cassette in the rec office. I don't know. That was 2,500, I think, is earlier in the meeting today. But the fact of putting their property out there for public good, and of course, in some cases, a substantial financial investment, private land on the piece. And this is going to surprise people, but what I'm going to say next is New Ross is not special. Oh, it's killing me to say that, but it's not, because there are so many examples of private landowners stepping up in the area, in the province and beyond Nova Scotia. I haven't done that far in terms of my research, but New Ross is an example of what can be done. Absolutely. And the fact that, again, working with Gord, we were able to, and I've said this before, I don't think Andre had the pleasure of being at the table, so Marshall had to listen to me at the time, but everyone else was here around the memorandum of understanding, that template that we were able to use. That was a typical MOU. So that was wonderful. So again, New Ross is not special. They're just doing what they can in an area that doesn't have a lot of public.
Get that in a minute, Pam?
I was waiting for somebody to say, what?
I couldn't help it.
I think they're pretty special myself. They do a lot.
I do a lot.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
Maybe you say
Thanks, Floyd. Thanks, Al.
it's a replicable model.
Yes, yes.
There
Yeah, we are on time
Yeah.
schedule.
Thank
I'll
you.
just say quickly I think that this council recognizes that trails are probably our most successful recreational asset. And I think there's been a lot of discussion here in the last couple of years about finding ways to invest in trails. We haven't really figured out exactly the path, but I think that we're working on that right now. I've been out to these trails, and they're great trails and they're well maintained. And when I was out there, I saw others enjoying them as well. So, I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'm glad to see you here.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So is Bertha Hatcher, or is she?
She's here.
Oh, she's there, sorry.
First of all, you first met me before. I've been, except for this young man, but I spoke to him just a little while ago. You've seen me here before when I was talking about the CAC, and you helped me on that, and Ruby's Trail and the Fairgrounds program. First, I'd like to acknowledge these people for making the trails in New Ross. You do a fantastic job. And also the council for helping these people to make these trails. I know a lot of people that come here from Halifax, and they tell me how much they enjoy these trails, and they also remark about how nice the people are in New Ross. They come here, they eat and buy gas and do all other things. These trails are good for the young and old like me. I use them because I have mobility problems. And also, I like the nature and the exercise. My grandson's 9 years old, and his classmate uses these trails. Last week, he joined a class after school on Tuesdays called the Trailblazers, and he loves it. At the New Ross exhibition, I was talking to many people, which I do quite a bit of. And it was brought up about the trails, and they kept asking me what was going on. And I said, I can't tell you, but I'll talk to Tina and get back to you. So I called Tina, and Tina told me about a new grant for $25,000 to support the community trails. I thought that was the most fantastic news I've heard for a long time, because we need these for the school kids, and me too. Then at a later date, we were at a cemetery meeting, and she told me that the grant may have been changed. I found that upset me a bit, but I hope that whatever this grant is will stay the same, because we need that grant, we need the trails. I need the trails, my grandson needs the trails. So I hope that we keep this grant And I know of a lot of people that Rod's talking to, they would like to be able to come to this meeting too, but their hours of work, they can't come. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All it says, we just haven't resolved that particular issue.
Yeah, so part of that was, sorry,
Okay, so yeah,
if that's okay, thank you, Bertha. Yeah, so it's funny because Bertha mentioned about cemetery committee, so again, we all
Oh,
kind of run the same circles and discussions, and, you know, with COVID, we weren't necessarily at breakfasts and different events so much, but we're still seeing each other in the circles, and I'm thankful for my new Ross flyer because I'm able to provide updates on that regular basis around what we're doing here at council, and the fact that I did note a month ago that we were doing a review of our grant, all of our grant programs, including the idea of a proposed new trails grant program to stand on its own, but yet to be part of our portfolio of grants. So that Bertha and I were chatting, and I was, in addition to Bertha, but many other people, I was at a loss for words, and again, put that in minutes if you want. No, Tina was at a loss, at a loss for words
that's hard to say.
to explain, because I was not in attendance at the second part of the workshop where we were doing the review of grants. So we had the first one, I think in August, I should look my date up. And then the next one was September 15th, when I had COVID, was not able to be at. So I've had a conversation with Chad, and he was very great in updating me, but I'm not saying there would have been minutes, but I didn't get any notes or minutes from that just to understand where that arrived at. So I'm now able to bring this to the council table and have this discussion. And I know that it's not done. It's coming back in November for a request for decision. But I'm not sure how hearty that discussion will be just yet. So that's why I'm bringing it right now. And we've been trying to wrap our heads around it, and I am putting my hat on as we, again, being part of the Trails Committee, sitting at the kitchen tables and sitting at the Ross Farm Museum. Thank you for allowing us to meet there on occasion when it's needed. But just to try to get my head around explaining it. So I guess now is the time that if others want to pipe up and talk about the fact that you've decided not to maybe go ahead, or that was a direction to give it to Chad, from my understanding, to not, direction to Chad was to have no separate trails grant. Could be wrong. The consensus by the group that I wasn't here, the six of you, to not fund a separate program, but to take that 25,000 and to put it into an overall grants program. Am I wrong? Because I could be wrong.
I think that the discussion at the time was that trails would be eligible.
Yes.
It
Yes,
just isn't its own
just wasn't
category.
specific to them.
So again, that's how I'm trying to understand, because I know that we talked about it at budget time and wasn't a given. I know that, no one has to interrupt me, but it wasn't a given, but we identified the amount at the time. You pulled it out of the air, I think, probably 25,000.
Yeah.
And at that time, we identified a trails grant program for staff. And I have to say again,
The
thank you to
potential.
staff. Yeah, exactly. And staff went out and did the research and came back, and that's why it's actually part of the public package. So others in the municipality can see the parameters around what is proposed for a trails grant program, the criteria, the eligibility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for that, Councillor. You know, I understand that they would be eligible to apply.
Yeah.
But then, and I'm not even going to take a breath, I'm just going to say this. I failed to understand then, as part of our review, why are we not doing the same with the 20,000 that we have allocated for recreation grants? Why then would that not then be lumped into, and we just have a free for all for grants? That's a fair question.
Yeah, we didn't come here to discuss the grant process. We're not finished with it yet. It's
Okay.
complicated. We disperse a lot of money, and you do need some guidance and an ability to make decisions, because you just can't fund everything.
And I think, if I can speak quick, I think the biggest problem we've had with funding trails is that
Ownerships.
we haven't really had a good discussion here on levels of funding relative to criteria that the applicant would have to satisfy. I think that we haven't had that, and we need to have that in place. And once that's in place, if that bin is part of a big bin of apples, or if it's a little bag of apples on the side, I don't
We just
see
didn't get
that.
there.
I don't see that that's a big problem. I see the biggest issue is that we need to have a clearly defined criteria by which those who want to create trails have to satisfy so that we know.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
we can
haven't really seen that here.
No, we haven't gotten that far.
So you get,
Because the amounts that we're talking about is far larger than we've ever really considered before.
so again, I wasn't here on September 15th, so I don't know how hearty of a discussion. I wasn't here.
It was why.
I know that, again, staff did research and brought that in. There's 3 pages that would be the overview of the Trails Grant Program. And in that, it lists the criteria, very similar to the other grants, very similar, the process, what needs to be in place. And I believe that was probably modeled off other municipal units in Nova Scotia that have a Trails Grant Program in addition to a grants program.
It's not but the meeting didn't conclude with that, and we didn't decide that. We wanted more information and very clear criteria, and we don't have it yet.
I noticed that, I can't remember doing this, brought up about the land. I remember when we came out here about Ridge Trail, and I can remember how hot and heavy and back and forth it was and how many trips I made out here to get that. You know, just because you can't have a defined law saying this land's gonna last forever, you gotta think about the short term, those kids that need this, and the old people that need these trails. You can't define a grant on that part of it. And I'd like to tell Tina, New Ross is the best place to live. And that's all I have to say.
I'll just say one more comment, is that I think what council's trying to do here is because I think the amounts that we're talking about have increased substantially since maybe when Ruby's Trail came in. So as a result, we're trying to balance protection of the public, of their funds against the criteria. I think that, and we haven't finished that discussion. So
there will be further discussion on that.
oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
And we would
So-
be
And
interested.
I can tell you that I have an interest in developing trails in my district as well. So this is of interest to me. I've had the same discussions with
Other
Floyd because, down the Aspetogan,
Perfect.
I think having a spur off of the main trail or trail down the Aspetogan makes sense. I think the people in my district want that, but we don't really have at this time the definition of what criteria we would need to have substantive investment. And up till now, we've given small amounts of money. But if it's going to be large, then
We need to know.
there has to be some discussion of what assurances we have.
Just to throw on the table, mentioned Espadon, we had all of Blandford School at Ross Farm not too long ago. I do enjoy actually the trail upgrades you kindly funded last year. And that relationship you mentioned between the school and the trail system is fundamental, and it's a hot topic in the province right now because Department of Health, Education, our department, CCTH, and I'm going to extrapolate, and I can look into municipal affairs, see the benefits of these relationships, that education is much more outdoors these days. And at Ross Farm, we're certainly seeing that based on what the Trail Society's sort of nudged us into doing with the place, and you guys have helped fund. So it's a really great and important year leading up to budget to have these conversations.
Sheena had mentioned something there, but I don't know if everyone picked up on it. So that we're absolutely not finished with the discussion and questions for decisions coming back. And I think Sheena, you had mentioned that then
So we're welcome back to those discussions then, and
Yeah, it could be, we may want input, but I guess we were looking at the overall grants program for the municipality of Chester and seeing, okay, what's working, what's not, what do we need to change, what don't we need to change, how much money are we going to allocate for this, that, and everything else. And it's a lot. And, and we just hadn't quite come to an end. We had to get ourselves to somewhere where we could make a decision right this second, but we aren't finished.
So are we going to be invited back?
Not for that discussion, that will be a council discussion, but will we want input from you at some point? Perhaps.
that would be lovely, because we wouldn't want to get lost in the little apples in the bigger bushel.
But there comes a
Because
point in
those
time where
allocations
council
can
has
be-
heard from the public and they have to make a decision.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
And certainly, Sheena, you had mentioned in your PowerPoint presentation, in your speaking notes around, the accolades to council for active transportation and the plan, you quoted from that, and our plan for open space.
Yeah.
And absolutely, so Andre's comments around the balance of protection of the public monies and our investments, and you didn't say that necessarily, but those kinds of balancing, like, I get it, because I sit here and we talk about, on a regular basis, purchasing of this piece of land, or investing in this wharf, or purchasing, adding to, that's all the greater good, that's all of your money, it's not our money. It's your money investing in community assets and community use.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely, we spend a lot of money for the public, and hopefully we're doing
Trails
it.
are really important.
Absolutely. So,
I'll slide that in, I'll stop.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now I think I'm on to quarterly report, infrastructure and operations.
Hey.
So, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for your kind attention. I'm here to give you an update on progress we've made in the previous quarter in the infrastructure and operations department. It's my intention to report to council the following month from the closure of the previous quarter. So, you're as up to date as you can be from our perspective. You'll also be thrilled to hear that this is not as long as the last one. Hello. We shall find out shortly. So if we could go to the next slide, I'll slide that one up a little bit. This is just a reminder of who's leading certain parts of the activities that we undertake within the department. So Lee is wastewater and building and structures. Tammy Bezanson is roads, vehicles, and equipment and open space. Krista is solid waste, Fred Wynott, public works, and myself, infrastructure and operations. Obviously, if there's any doubts, you know where to find me or Fred or Krista. So, a quick reminder on that one.
That's right. At the end of the day, you're in charge. So
Yes,
let's call you.
of course. Moving on to solid waste. So the tonnage for quarter two was a total of 22,204 tons. That represents a 6.76 increase on the same quarter two of 2021. So the last two quarters have shown a roughly 5% or 6% increase. And on that basis, we're anticipating come year end, come all the quarters being, sort of the numbers being in, an increase of between 5.5% and 6%. But we'll report on that as each quarter unfolds. The leachate treatment. So in the budget that was approved for this year, also in the strategic priorities, there was an item for the design of phase 2 of the leachate treatment facility. We will be bringing that to council, I believe, on the 10th of November for your consideration. But it's just a reminder that we are working on it and we are at a stage now where we would like your input. Cell 3B, so the work is well underway, it continues. We have an estimated completion date of March 23. This is due to weather-related flooding and its effect on the clay consistencies. In addition, there was increased blasting required for the bedrock, so that has delayed things slightly, but it's still within tolerances and the current capacity of the landfill is there. It's not going to sort of delay or impact any sort of continued acceptance of waste.
When do we anticipate what we have now to be sort of nearing its?
It's spring. So when the cell should be operational it's going to be pretty tight.
So we're only gonna have a couple of months.
Yeah, at best, yeah, it's getting quite tight. Originally, we were advised that the construction would have been by Christmas of this year. So it has slipped 2 or 3 months forward, which we're fully aware of, and we are sort of keeping on top of the decks of the contractors to make sure that they fulfill that obligation, so we're not having awkward conversations in spring. I'll keep you all informed, of course. The public drop-off, so we are, that was in this year's priorities, but it wasn't budgeted for. So we are looking to have that awarded or presented to council for award and approval in very early on in the new financial year, so Q1 of next financial year. Vehicles and equipment, so the new compactor has been ordered, as you know, so we appreciate your support in the special council meeting. We did actually receive notification this week that the assembly is almost complete of the compactor, and so the November date for delivery is still that's still good, which is a huge thing. We're also grateful for the replacement, or the temporary replacement contractor from Dexter's. So that's helped us hugely in the compaction rates, because we were reliant on vehicles which frankly couldn't achieve the same levels that we would require. So that was that's good news on that. Half-ton truck that was recently approved, so the order has been placed and we're waiting delivery date confirmation. The green carts have been ordered for delivery in February 2023. Landfill strategy. So we are well underway with the modelling of the strategy. It's just as a reminder, it's to give financial scenarios based on waste volumes, contract expiration, vehicle and equipment, and new cell and leachates as we roll out over the next, I think it's up to 2046. It's a fairly extensive one. The further out you go, obviously the looser it gets, but it's the intention just to show you certain scenarios. So we'll be bringing that to council prior to Christmas, so it's imminent. So
I mean, if I could just ask,
of course.
cell 3B is being constructed.
Yes.
So is there a contingency plan, or how much capacity do we have until we can use this?
So if it's delayed, that it's a problem, frankly.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
what I'm building.
Yeah, I know, but I know
no,
that, but it's got to, the solid waste got to go somewhere.
it does. Can I get back to you on that?
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause-
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's got to be built, and I'm sure you have an idea that if it doesn't,
yeah, I certainly know that from.
Worst case scenarios, we have arrangements with other parties.
okay, well, I was wondering, yeah.
But we're definitely conscious that it's very tight,
Mhm.
and that you know, to allow on the contract administration side and the progress made by the contractor, Krista is absolutely on them. So she conducts at least monthly update progress reports, and so that's how, you know, that's what they're stating at the moment. There may be, the weather might behave itself. It may be that they can play catch up on a little. If it doesn't, then I'll absolutely you'll be the first one to hear in terms of where it goes.
And we got what you fancy.
You generally, I'm referring to as council.
Dexter's is aware that they made them.
It's
And they
we're
may
very
bring more
conscious.
resources to bear.
So, so completed projects in terms of solid waste, so compactor purchase, the truck purchase, green cart purchase. And you may recall earlier on in the quarter, there was the landfill vehicle and equipment policy, which you kindly approved. Moving on to public works. So there's the traditional stats that we give. I won't go through those. I'm sure you've digested them. In terms of progress of significant projects that we're working on, active transportation, being the sidewalks, waiting the 90% design drawings from the consultant. Public consultation letters were sent to affected residents with the deadline of 30th of November this year to respond. The TIR and DPW right-of-way permits have been applied for, as have the environmental construction permits. So we're just waiting for those bits to fall into place, and we'll obviously keep people posted on that. Rectangular, rapid rectangular flashing beacons. So you recall from last week's meeting that there's been, it's unlikely that we're going to get all the ones that we originally had planned for. Once the locations have been confirmed by NSDPW, again, it's our job to share that information with you. Same with speed radar signs, exactly the same scenario. I can confirm that the J-class roads resurfacing have all been completed on Myra, Adams and Brunswick. So that's good, get them off the plate.
Just a question on the J-class. You know, I sent an email to, about the J-class road criteria. And it came to my attention that the program, as far as I understand it, since I've been in council, the only roads that qualify are the paved J-class roads.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
way back when service exchange was negotiated with the province years and years ago, they identified X roads, name by name, that the municipality had a responsibility for. And that list has not changed, nor will it until service exchange. is
Okay, because
negotiated.
the only reason I say that is because it came to my knowledge from a very,
They gave us a list.
I was called to a meeting, I'll put it that way. And I was told that that doesn't necessarily, the J-class roads that are paved, that are not paved, can be included in that program if you submit them.
No,
Now, that's not true?
totally, they have to be on the list that came from the service exchange agreement.
But are there unpaved roads?
I can't remember
Okay.
which ones.
Okay,
All I
so,
know is they gave us a list, that's it.
so that's the information that I received. And the person that gave me that information cited 2 cases.
I don't care what they cited. They were on a list that we received after service exchange. These are the ones you have to pay 50% on, no others. None added, none deleted.
Really?
That's correct.
So East Side Martins River Road is not,
If
on
it
that
isn't on the list, it is
so that
not.
doesn't qualify.
If it isn't on it, it doesn't qualify.
So how do you, I wonder how you.
They
proceed to
have
get
the
on
list.
Pardon me?
We have the list.
So there's no, so we can't
Change it. No,
We can't change the list
Cannot
Or add
change it.
to it.
or add to it? Well,
No.
really? That's crazy.
Well, it's because it was part of a financial arrangement between the.
So is this what Dan and those guys are
That's what they're
negotiating now?
negotiating now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just that I was told that, and where it came from was very reliable
Yeah.
and cited some cases. So that's why I brought it forward. I had no idea that's why, because a resident asked me, and I said,
Yeah.
that's all I know is pavement.
It's a defined list.
Because, well, Adams must have been on that list, because to my knowledge, that road wasn't paved.
All I know is
It's
we
dirt
have
road.
a defined list.
So, I mean, I'm grateful that it's done, don't get me wrong. But, you know, when you have a road in your area that's paved, and then someone with a gravel road, which is J-class, and says, well, how come we can't get ours paved? That was paved,
It's because it's
So-
not on the list.
and I didn't know that, I didn't have that information. And so I was left with my pants down, sort of, well, if I can get it on the list, I'll put it on,
You can't-
Absolutely.
you can't-
Yeah.
but I can't put it on.
You cannot.
So knowledge is a wonderful thing.
And pants.
Huh?
Walk your parents.
Okay, thank you, sorry, go ahead, Nancy. That's clear, I'm glad I got that clear, perfect,
Okey-doke.
all right.
On to more fascinating things, snow and ice control. So we've recently awarded 3-year term contracts commencing the 1st of November 2022, which came to council last week, if my memory serves. So the roads, the total linear meters for snow clearance is 2,735, 3,915 of sidewalks. And in addition, internally we'll clear 525 meters of road along Millennium Drive. So we will be tracking those and seeing the progress of our contractors and responding accordingly to make sure the service is as people expect. Wastewater, lift station force mains, so CDCL commencing the design brief and the initial stages of the design process. Construction is anticipated in 2023. Chester wastewater treatment plant, so we had that not 25 minutes ago, so
Yeah.
I'll leave at that point. Otter Point wastewater treatment, that was designed, so design awarded in September. Preliminary meeting with Able has taken place, and the construction is 2023 pending council approval. Western Shore wastewater treatment plant upgrade. ABCO provided preliminary costs on clarify repairs. Capital plan to be presented to council in the next financial year. Milko fire protection, the report will be brought to council for consideration and discussion in December of this year. And the manhole repairs, Western Shore is complete, and this is an annual maintenance item. Yeah. Progress there. Again, continuing with wastewater, lift station panel upgrades and generators. So 16 of the 18 panels have been upgraded. A future capital plan to be presented to council in the next financial year. And the wastewater study, a 5-year plan to be presented to council in November. So that will be the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that will be an interesting discussion. Gold River Bridge, design awarded in spring, and the design will be completed. Sorry, start again. Design awarded in September, and the design will be completed in spring of 2023. And again, anticipated construction will be later on next year, some fall. Station Bridge, the design RFP will be distributed in the next financial year. We're just waiting for the Gold River Bridge to sort of go to course before we
Start another one.
do another one. Yeah.
That's plenty. Lots of questions on the Gold River Bridge.
No,
The UL?
from like Ian Thompson's and people like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I was over this week.
But like I say, you know where to come if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely be happy to help. Wild Rose accessible washrooms, so anticipated opening in spring 2023. Trail bridge repairs, so the RFP to be posted, and that's an assessment and sort of an audit of what needs to be done and the like. So again, we've penciled that in for RFP to be distributed by the end of this year. Accessibility audit, so that's complete. We'll be bringing that back to council in November, so 17th if I remember correctly. We're going to be splitting it out, so it's the full report saying, here we are, this is the recommendations and for your receipt. We'll also be making recommendations for sort of low-hanging fruit, easy
Second step.
just get the easy stuff done, and then we'll be bringing back a more comprehensive analysis and options in the new year. So that should garner some conversation. Yes.
It's on accessibility. I know the building over next door, not even the main door. Have we come up with a solution for that?
And put a little bit of ramp in there.
Well, I thought, but I just wondered if we had come up with an idea, because I know it's been that way forever.
For the one on the
That little lift
bottom.
that that causes.
Yeah, we have a suggestion there. We're currently applying for different funding streams. See if we can get some help on that. The real struggle, we have a plan, the struggle actually is getting contractors to get the bids.
But you're gonna fix it.
Yes.
We're going to fix it. Yeah.
It didn't seem that complicated.
No,
No.
like whatever.
Okay. We can do stuff around our own house we can't do here.
So, okay, so that's the accessibility audit. Vehicles and equipment, so we got the new 3/4 ton truck on order, so we're waiting for a delivery date there. The zero-turn mower is also on order, and that's waiting for delivery date on that. Although I think it might be in the new year. I don't know why it's quite delayed, but it has been. But it'll be with us before the grass grows. Open spaces. So Hennebury Lake, waiting future requirements, if any, from environment. Trail maintenance has been complete. The beach wall repair is complete. Horn property, ongoing trail work, it's 90% complete. It's certainly functional. There's a few tweaks we've got to make there, but it's by and large complete as a project. J-class roads matrix. So we came to you last week to have those initial discussions. They're ongoing. We'll wrap that up next month. So that's fresh in the mind. Traffic impact study that will be presented in the new year. Community wells, so that will be presented to council in December, just to see what options we have and what recommendations are and sort of best practices and the like. And also the wastewater capital charge. So we'll be bringing that to council prior to Christmas as well for discussion. Completed projects, traffic control contract, J-class roads rehab, snow and ice control, wastewater pump standing offer, Western Shore gravity system upgrade, admin building heat pump, trails, trees, canopy and brush clearance, East River beach wall and ramp repair, Hill Cove boat launch, heavy equipment contract, and the Finger Wharf upgrades. We are, we're racing through this. Administration, so we are looking to bring the asset management policy for discussion and approval to council in December of this year. So that's the first part. Following that will be asset management strategies, which will be presented in the following year. And so just the final page, we made a big song and dance in the Q1 report about how many projects we had. So I thought it's only fair to show you how we're making some dint in those. So in Q1 we had 94 projects that were active, and in Q2 we whittled that down to 79. So it was we just want to make sure that we are, we're on it. There'll be there's much more work to come. There's much more work to come that we don't even know about yet. So and that's fine. That's why we're here. But next year, it's physical projects on the ground that you'll be able to point out and say, there you go. We
did build that.
That you're going to see quite a few of those in next year's construction season. So,
thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, that's good, Greg.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, people, I think, Abe, I'm on to you or out and about.
Oh, yes, my out and about team now. I just, I'd like to say a thank you to Mike and Heather Brooker. They donated 3 flagpoles to the Together We Can Community Park. And they're going and they have they're going to have the Canadian flag there on one,
yeah,
the Nova Scotia flag on the other, and the native flag. Every child matters, and they're going to be flying them. And I just wanted them to have the recognition. And we'll speak to Jennifer after when they fly them. We'll take some photos and maybe we can put it in our Municipal Insight magazine. But I thought that was important to know that that was very well done on their part, and I just like to publicly thank them. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that it? Tina, you have a grant.
Yeah, I do. So I'm gonna call email. Thank you for reminding me. So I've had a request from a group in New Ross that has submitted and we approved $1,000 for the New Ross preschool. And they've had some change of things happen there. So I'm just going to read it. I'm sure it's a no-brainer, but again, it's not within the nature of what or the spirit of their original ask. So I'm just going to make it up. Okay, so it's we approved for the New Ross preschool storage shed and muddy buddies. But they have decided to delay the building of the storage shed because of just maybe labor and some other things happening, inclement weather happening. And they are in greater need of an item to purchase, and that would be a freezer, deep freezer for storage of food, to be able to purchase in greater supply and fill the shelves to then, again, part of the program. So I believe that was the general idea of the email that I received. Still within the preschool,
Still the
still
same
within
amount of
that,
money.
still the same amount of money, and whatever monies don't necessarily aren't needed, maybe they'll get a better deal on that freezer, so then the monies will go to the muddy buddies, which again are outdoor little things
That's
to wear
fine.
when you go outside when you're little.
Fine.
So somebody move, we approve the changes.
So, second.
Thank you.
Discussion,
Thank you.
all those in favor,
Yeah.
opposed, motion carried. Now, to the very best of my knowledge, that's the end of that. We have two in-camera matters.